Okay, Miss Federico, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
And Miss Wiesenthal?
I'm ready.
Great. And I'm assuming everybody else is ready here. So we are on the record in the Colorado Public Utilities Commission's proceeding number 23AL-0635G. My name is Connor Farley. I am the administrative law judge assigned to this proceeding. It is approximately 11 a.m. on May 2nd, 2024, and this remote pre-hearing conference is being webcast. I will take appearances starting with Colorado Natural Gas Inc., or CNG.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mark Davidson of the law firm Fairfield and Woods, appearing on behalf of Colorado Natural Gas.
Thank you and welcome. I'll turn next to staff.
Good morning, Your Honor. Brian Krakis from the Colorado Attorney General's Office. With me is my co-counsel, Jennifer Hayden.
Thank you and welcome. I'll turn to the Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate next.
Good morning, Your Honor. It's Tom Dixon from the Attorney General's Office, appearing on behalf of the Utility Consumer Advocate, and I believe my co-counsel, Patrick Wittershine, is actually listening on the web link.
Great. Thank you and welcome. And finally, I'll turn to Sierra Club.
Good morning, Your Honor. Matt Gerhardt appearing on behalf of Sierra Club. My colleague Jim Dennison is also listening in on the web link.
Thank you and welcome to you and your colleague and to everybody here. This pre-hearing conference was scheduled in decision number R24- I'm not sure what the other four digits were, but it was dated on April 30th, 2024. Give me just a moment and I may be able to find it.
Excuse me, Your Honor, the other four digits are 0635, and you should have some confusion because at some point the emails were showing 0645, but the correct number is 0635.
Got it. And that's the proceeding number 23AL-0635G. What I was looking for was the last four numbers of the decision, the interim decision that scheduled this, and that is R24-0288-I, and that issued on April 30th, just a few days ago. So the purpose of this remote pre-hearing conference, called on relatively short notice, is to discuss an email that Mr. Davidson sent to me. I think it was on April 26th or 28th. In any event, he copied the rest of you on it, as he should have, and I'm thankful for. And the email proposed a new schedule for this proceeding. In decision number R24-0286-I, I had established the schedule in this proceeding, and it was based on an effective date of the tariff sheets of January 4th, 2025. We get to that effective date as a result of the application of two suspensions of the original effective date listed as April 29th, 2024. Both of those suspensions were put in place consistent with section 40-6-111, subsection 1B of the Colorado Revised Statutes. So that was the basis for the schedule that I put in place. And it included a hearing scheduled for August 27th to 29th of 2024 and a deadline for statements of position of September 16th, 2024. And so that works out to a time gap between the statements of position and the effective date after the two suspensions of 110 days. And that type of gap is what's necessary to allow me to review the record, review the statements of position, write my recommended decision, but then also allow the opportunity for exceptions and for the commission to deliberate on those exceptions and write their decision on the exceptions, all that needs to be completed by the suspended effective date of January 4th. Mr. Davidson's email has proposed a different schedule, a significantly more delayed schedule than what I've proposed. It would basically end with statements, evidentiary hearing on December 3rd through 5th of 2024, and statements of position then due on December 19th of 2024. In the email that, and I understand, I think that all of the parties have agreed to this schedule proposed in the email. And I'll give you all the opportunity to weigh in on that just to make sure. Why don't I go ahead and allow everybody to weigh in at this point, and I'll start with staff.
So I think in the email, CNG noted that staff took no position. Your Honor, I would note staff prefers the alternative schedule proposed in Mr. Davidson's email to the one that was included in your order from a few days ago, because we have conflicts with that, with the latter schedule.
Understood. I'll turn to UCA, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Your Honor. UCA supports the new schedule.
Thank you. And finally to Sierra Club, Mr. Gerhardt.
Sierra Club has no objection to the new schedule.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for the clarification, Mr. Krakis. In the email, Mr. Davidson had said in order to accommodate this delayed schedule, that CNG was willing and would, I'm not sure the exact language used, Mr. Davidson, but effectively waive the statutory deadline, I think was the words that you used. And then CNG also committed to not offer any construction allowances in between the January 4th, 2025 effective date after suspension of the proposed tariff sheets and whenever there was a final commission decision, which I understand and appreciate. So let me just state, hopefully somewhat quickly, the problem with this approach is that there is at least a serious question about whether the statutory requirement that the tariff sheets go into effect at the latest 250 days after the effective date listed on the tariff sheets can be waived. So there's at least a serious question about whether that's permissible. I would just note statutory language in 40-6-111B that, I'll just read. This may take me a moment. Pending the hearing and decision on the hearing, in the case of a public utility other than a rail carrier, the rate, fare, toll, rental, charge, classification, contract, et cetera, must not extend beyond 120 days beyond the time when the rate, et cetera, would otherwise go into effect unless the commission in its discretion and by separate order extends the period of suspension for a further period not exceeding 130 days. So you add those two numbers together, the 120 days that happens when the commission sets an advice letter and tariff sheets for hearing. The effective date is suspended for 120 days, and then the tariff sheets can be further suspended another 130 days, which is what I did in the decision setting the schedule. So that equals 250 days. And the use of the language must not extend beyond and not exceeding is the source of at least the question as to whether that effective date suspended for 250 days can be waived. In fact, it's my view that that statutory effective date, suspended effective date, cannot be waived. So I don't think you all can get where you want to be through a waiver. I don't think it's permissible. However, there is another way of doing this. And specifically, there's another way for CNG and the other parties to reach the result requested in the email. And that other way is for CNG to file an amended advice letter and tariff sheets with an amended effective date that would permit the schedule that has been requested. So let me just cut to the chase and tell you what my view of what the new effective date after 250-day suspension would have to be April 8th, 2025. So that would basically accommodate the same gap that I talked about earlier between the statements of position and the final commission decision that would allow me to get my recommended decision done and then provide sufficient time for exceptions and for the commission to deliberate and write their decision. So that end date would be April 8th, 2025. And so if you count back 250 days from that, that would require an effective date on the amended advice letter and tariff sheets of August 1st, 2024. So that's the path to get to where you want to be, and this would all be contingent on the same commitments by CNG in the email, not to offer construction allowances between January 4th, 2025 and the issuance of the final commission decision in this proceeding, which would have to be by April 8th, 2025. So that's what I wanted to lay out here today, and see what the reaction is. And I'll also say that I've done this math and calculating these dates pretty quickly. And I was a political science major, so feel free to check my math. The bottom line is, I'm just looking to accommodate what you're seeking in terms of a schedule change, but do it in a way that I would be willing to do. So with that, let me ask Mr. Davidson first and just see whether that approach is something that CNG would be willing to do.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, as you know, we filed the original advice letter and proposed tariff sheets in compliance with the statutory requirement and the deadline that was set. In order to comply with that statute, we filed it under protest, and that kind of started the process here. But to your point, while I haven't carefully thought about your determination on the, I'll say, non-waivability of the 250-day deadline, I accept your thinking on that for purposes of this discussion. And I think, as you outlined the concern you have, the first thing that came to mind was a refiling of the advice letter or amending the advice letter, as you suggest, to accommodate the more extended schedule. So I think on behalf of the company, we can agree to that approach to accommodate the schedule, which as you know, because you're on other cases that we have, CNG has a fairly active schedule or set of proceedings before the commission. Other parties also had scheduling constraints that this extended schedule met a number of needs of the parties as we conferred to offer that to you. And my email apparently has crossed with the finalization of your interim decision, and that's kind of how we got here this morning. So I think in summary, we would agree to the approach that you've recommended here as an option. I'll say I was a history and political science major, so I'm probably even more inadequate at calculating, but I have people at CNG that are very good at math, and we'll make sure that dates all fit together to accommodate this. In thinking about it, we'll need to offer maybe some additional components to the alternative schedule with the new filing date, et cetera. But I think working with the parties, we can make all this fit together to have a new effective date of April 8 of 2025 to accommodate all the timing that you've identified.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Let me just open the floor to anybody else who may want to weigh in on this. In particular, what I'd like to hear is whether using this approach would impact any of your clients' positions on the schedule proposed in the email.
On behalf of staff, Your Honor, we're fine with your proposal.
Okay, thank you.
On behalf of the UCA, Your Honor, we're also fine with your proposal.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have just one clarifying question, which is, under this approach, would you envision that it would be the same docket number and therefore there would be no need to file new interventions?
That is correct. It's truly going to be an amended advice letter and amended, tariff sheets, amending for the sole purpose of changing the effective date of the proposed tariff sheets. So it will be filed in this docket and it's just part of this case.
Thank you for that clarification. Sierra Club is comfortable with this approach.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that's all that I wanted to talk about today. Let me just tell you all that I'm going to be out of the office for a couple of weeks. So hopefully, I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Davidson, about when to file the amended advice letter and tariff sheets. And then what I'd also like is, as you had suggested in your email, Mr. Davidson, a motion asking to amend the schedule in light of the amended advice letter and tariff sheets.
I can do that, Ron.
Great. So I can't remember. Well, let me look and see. I think the first date was for direct testimony on May 20th. It may be unlikely that I'll be able to get a decision out, interim decision granting the motion to amend the schedule, but provided everything goes as we've discussed today, my intent would be to grant that. So that's kind of a long way of saying, Mr. Davidson, I don't think you need to worry about the May 20th deadline. That's all that I have. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like me to address today? And I'll start with you, Mr. Davidson.
Not on behalf of the company, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, and how about staff?
Nothing from staff, Your Honor. Thank you.
And Mr. Dixon on behalf of UCA?
One thing I would alert you to, this date is a popular date for hearings, and Judge Hahn is waiting to see whether you are going to grant this request because she would like to set a hearing in the Black Hills Clean Heat Plan on August 28 to 30. I advised her I would let her know and the parties know what happens in this pre-hearing conference. So is it safe for me to say that you will be vacating that hearing date, and I can so state so she can then quickly grab it?
Yes, you can make that representation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Gerhard, anything else on behalf of Sierra Club?
Nothing further from Sierra Club, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you for being here and for accommodating the quick turnaround and scheduling this remote pre-hearing conference. I appreciate it, but I wanted to get this done before I head out of town, in light of the fact that the first deadline is May 20th. So with that, let me thank you again, and we will be adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your
Thank
Honor.
you.